So recently, Argentina's vice president and former president, Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, had a failed assassination attempt against her. And David PAKMAN made a video talking about it. And BadEmpanada responded to the video and he debunked a lot of what he had to say. But David PAKMAN had to say, it's a really good video. You can check it out yourself. And I think it's funny how David Pakman's politics are liberals, social democratic politics in the United States. As in, he sucks up to the Democratic Party and supports voting for the lesser of two evils. Personally, I'm to the left of David Pakman. I'm a big, not necessarily a big fan of Christina Kirchner. She's center left, but but I think, according to David Pakman's own logic, you should support someone who's center left over a right winger. She's a lot better than the Argentinian right, that's for sure. And I don't know what it is about David Pakman. He is from Argentina. He was born in Argentina. But when it comes to Argentinian politics, he despises Christina Kirchner and always refers to her as corrupt. And he criticizes her way more than he does the Argentinian right. And we see that in this video. What David Pakman has to say is that I'm going to be reviewing the video, but what David Pakman has to say is that the entire thing, the assassination attempt, stinks to high heaven.
Many people wrote into me saying, David, did you see the assassination attempt of the Argentinian vice president, Cristina Kirchner, which was caught on video? David, you're Argentinian. Please tell us what you think about this issue. Well, I have to tell you, and this is going to anger a lot of people, including even some people in my friends and family. The entire thing stinks to high heaven.
So David talks about how Cristina Kirchner is corrupt.
Cristina is a criminally corrupt individual. And there are major charges against her. There's a corruption trial where a prosecutor is seeking a 12-year sentence against her and a lifelong ban from the office, from holding public office. She says she's the victim of political persecution, prosecution. Both terms kind of apply here. And it is really not looking good for her.
So David talks about how Kirchner is corrupt and how there's this trial against her that this one prosecutor was doing for corruption. The thing about Latin American politics is that it's similar to how American politics works. Just because certain people with certain political inclinations will rule in favor of left-wingers or right-wingers, depending on their political ideology. It's like how the Supreme Court in the United States, the Supreme Court is Republican, and they'll say, I am going to act on behalf of the law and the Constitution, but in actuality, they act on behalf of Republican interests. And the Supreme Court in Argentina is similar. So, for all we know, this judge could be just acting on behalf of his own right-wing interest, and that's a common thing that happens in Latin American politics. Like, for example, in Brazil, we saw it with the Lava Jato scandal, in which the right-wing judge Sergio Moro was able to put Lula da Silva in prison under baseless allegations of corruption, and we all know now he is out of prison and he's running for president. So, an example of how sometimes, I mean, what a prosecutor would want is to get lucky and be able to have a judge who agrees with their political ideology. For example, sometimes if you're lucky, people who are all acting together, then they'll all be able to who know each other personally will be each other's judge and each other's prosecutor. For example, there was one right-wing prosecutor who plays on the same a soccer team or football team as the judge. And they play for the same football team, and the football team is owned by former right-wing president and current opposition leader in Argentina, Mauricio Macri. That happens.
Now, you might remember there was another prosecutor, Alberto Niesman, who also was moving forward very, very strongly against her with corruption and other charges. And just before he was going to be presenting evidence in a court of law, he was found dead of a supposed suicide. Now, having studied that issue seriously for many years, I don't believe that Niesman killed himself. It doesn't make any sense when you understand the full scope of the story.
So David tells us about Alberto Niesman, who is this one judge who is going to present damning evidence against Kirchner. That the damning evidence, it had to do with this one terrorist attack on the AMIA, which was this Jewish cultural center where over 50 people were killed in 1994. And the allegation was that Kirchner was involved in the terrorist attack. And first off, that's a bogus allegation. There's no evidence of that. And second, he says that he doesn't believe that Niesman killed himself. No, he did kill himself. That's a conspiracy theory. And second, the Israeli intelligence agency, they did a secret memo that was leaked. And what it said in that memo was that they did an investigation, and they said that there was no evidence that there were any Argentinian politicians involved in the AMIA terrorist attack.
Now, there are people, and by the way, I know people will write in, my Argentinian viewers will say, Che boludo, you're a Macri guy, you're a right winger. No. I think that Mauricio Macri, basically Argentinian Trump, was also horrible and did a few good things. Okay, but not a guy that I supported. The context here is very different. Just because I think Christina's corrupt doesn't mean I'm a right winger, doesn't mean I like Macri or whatever. But it all absolutely stinks to me.
So David insists that he's not a right winger. He's a left winger who just doesn't like Kirchner. But I find it awfully suspicious how someone who claims to be a left winger despises the center left in Argentinian politics much more than they despise the right. Now, David calls Macri a right winger who has done some good things, but why doesn't he ever say Kirchner has done some good things? Why doesn't he say Kirchner's corrupt, but she's done some good things? But after all, it only makes sense that David would agree with Kirchner a lot more on abortion, on LGBT rights, on economic issues. But no, everything he says that comes out of his mouth is just Kirchner bad. You'd be more likely to hear David credit NFTs for helping the Argentinian economy than you would hear him praise Kirchner.
Today, I'm going to take a few minutes to tell you about a really fascinating gaming project that if you're interested in alternative assets, NFTs, blockchain, big time ties gaming and all of those things together.
So I have demonstrated how David PAKMAN is a right-winger when it comes to Argentinian politics. How his insinuating that the whole thing stinks to high heaven is a baseless conspiracy theory that no one who's paying attention to what's going on believes, even people who don't necessarily like Kirchner. And understand, there's a reason why the State Department decides to fund people who are useful idiots like David PAKMAN. And if David PAKMAN is this clueless and untrustworthy when it comes to Argentinian politics, I don't know why you would take him seriously when it comes to anything else. Anyway, there you have it.